this another episode of the Coffee at 11 show, brought to you by Wigwam and indeed supported by the Limerick Post, keeping Limerick posted, hashtag Limerick and Proud. You're very welcome. Delighted in particular to welcome our very special guest all the way from the Kingdom this morning, and it is Nicola Lawless. Nicola, please say hello and cheers us with your coffee mug.
Hi, everybody.
I love it. There you go. Let me just introduce Nicola very briefly before we bring herself in, and we'll have a wonderful chat. So obviously it's Nicola Lawless. Her business name, she says she's the CEO of Kerry Flyer CLG and Managing Director of Daydonan Travel, Training, Engineering and Lettings Limited, DDTTEL Limited. Her day job is as CEO of a social enterprise. She has also started a new business with her husband, who's in the room. Welcome, Gareth. Which provides engineering training, corporate travel and lettings, Airbnb and residential, and it includes a converted bus. How long established? 20 years working in the social enterprise and private enterprise sector. And how many employees? 5 in her own company and 21 in the day job. She goes on to say that she's a mother of 4, disability advocate, entrepreneur and down-to-earth, straight-talking woman. Her nickname, wait to hear this, her nickname is Noogle, as in Nicola Google. She is somebody who always finds solutions and answers for friends and family. She gets stuff done. A woman of opposites. She's measured, calm, and yet laser focused. And she's also spontaneous, intuitive, and trusting. And as a result, accepts life on life's terms. Well done, you. She's described as someone with business acumen that is very targeted. She designs, plans, and executes in her business life, but family and friends are her most important focus. And Nicola feels that her sense of humour has gotten her this far and looks forward to lots of adventures in her future. And then we asked something nobody knows about you. Right, you hear this, right? I read the Daily Mail online frequently. Right, you hear this? So I can infuriate myself with their right-wing views and their degrading articles they publish about women and their bodies. If you're not angry, you're not paying attention. Right, there's the first on the Coffee at 11 show. I love it. And there's ripples of laughter and spontaneous boola bus going on there. Nicola Lawless, this is going to be fascinating. Thank you for taking the time out.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. And we hope you enjoy it too, by the way. We're going to have fun. We hope you enjoy it too. So here's the story, right? We say to all of our guests in the Coffee at 11 show, we can and we will Google you, or now Noogle you, as the new phrase is, right? We will Noogle you. And we will be able to find out all about your business today. But that's not what the Coffee at 11 show is all about. We want to find out about little Nicola. Will you take us all the way back? Because I know you're not from the Kingdom originally.
I'm not, no, thank you, Colin. And actually, just before we start, I actually think that Eamon's grounding session there to begin with is really like, it's some of the things that I wanted to talk about today. So, and some of you will have heard my story before and some of you won't, so hopefully you can bear with me. Little Nicola was born in Dublin to 2 dogs, and they were both business people. So I'm the eldest of 4. I have 2 sisters and a brother, and we had a lovely little shop in not a great area in Dublin, but it was a little gold mine. And when I was about 5 or 6, my parents decided, you know what, this is going great. Let's move to the suburbs, because my parents were from Finglas, and Finglas was the country when they were growing up. It wasn't Dublin. So they were, my father especially was mad to get back to the country. So we moved to Cavan, and they opened up a business down there, and that didn't go very well during the first recession in the early 80s. So as a result, we moved around a bit until we settled again, and actually I went to about 6 different primary schools, which looking back now was it was jarring, and it did have an effect on me. But obviously we were just trying to find our place. So we ended up settling in Meath, in near Kells in County Meath, a beautiful little village there called Minalty, which has the Steam Thrashing Festival every year, and a beautiful place to grow up. But we didn't settle there till I was about 11. So as a result, I kind of grew up, even though both my parents came from large families and we had a large extended family, we had moved to the country, and I always kind of felt like I didn't really belong anywhere. And I know that was just incidental to the moving around, but I never really felt like I belonged anywhere, because I would start a new school every couple of years and I would have to make routes, and then we might move on. And we didn't move all over the country. We stayed within sort of, the general area of Cavan and Meath, but it just left me with a sense of never really belonging, because I had very much belonged in Dublin with all my extended family around me. So I think that kind of shaped me a little bit. And I was very, very artistic. Growing up, I was nearly always seen with pen and paper and pencils and watercolours in hand. So when I finished school, which I hated, absolutely hated school. Now, I had an aptitude for it, and every single parent-teacher meeting would result in my mother coming home, Jesus Christ, will you just do something, you know, because I would just about, and they'd all be saying, oh God, she could be doing so much better, like she has, she could do this, she could do that. But I didn't like school. I just wanted to draw. So when I left secondary school, I got a good leaving, don't know how, really don't know how. I have this, well, I used to have this ridiculous ability to retain useless information. So I think that kind of saw me through. But when I left school, I went to art college. And I thought, yeah, this is where I should be. I'm going to move to Paris. I'm going to be an artist, you know, just going to be, and I'm never having kids. I'm just going to be me. And I was reading all these, you know, like all these books about the set in Paris, you know, all these great writers, American writers, French writers, all of this. And I was like, yeah, that's a bit of me, you know. So I think I was in college maybe 2 months, and I actually got pregnant. So I met this older Italian gentleman. Well, he wasn't a gentleman, I'll be honest. But anyway, I met him. And next thing I find myself pregnant. So there's this one who, like, I was one of those kids at school who would be wearing the long black coats and the dock boots up past the knee and stuff like that. And Gareth will actually attest to that, because he noticed me, might have said long before I noticed him. But anyway, he was, you know, I was kind of like the cool kid, sort of, and it's slightly, not hugely, just slightly. So getting pregnant, and at that time, I felt like I had no choice but to leave college. And coming back home to Kells within 3 months was like a spectacular crash and burn, you know?
All right. Catch your breath, right? Catch your breath. Okay. This is a regular feature of the Coffee at 11 show, where somebody comes in and they just go off on a rant, which is wonderful, by the way. And I was trying to keep up. I was writing notes here, right? But I just don't want to miss all the richness that you've just shared. So first of all, thank you for sharing. I can see straight away this is going to be an incredibly honest and open interview. There are no holes barred, which is wonderful. Delighted. But there's a handful of things in here, and we'll go back to Kells in just a second, right? So by your own admission, grew up in Finglas, when Finglas was the country, right? And then moved further into the country in Cavan and Meath and all the rest of it. Didn't really belong. That featured very heavily in your story there, that you had this feeling of being perhaps a bit of a loner. The artistic thing was clearly very strong for you. You hated school. You repeated that 3 times, right? I hated, in case you didn't know, I hated school. And your poor mother coming home bereft at the end of every parent-teacher meeting, like, why, if she'd only apply herself, she'd be great at this one, right? A propensity to retain useless information. I have to say, I noticed Gareth nodding in the background there. I couldn't miss that, and I couldn't miss the opportunity to hang you there, Gareth, so I do apologize, but hey, we're friends now. And then and this is where it gets, I shouldn't be smiling at this, right? But you know, you went off to college, to art college, you had Paris in your sights, everyone's going swimmingly well, you were the cool kid. And then things took a turn, and all of a sudden now we're back in Kells. We haven't gone to Paris, we're back in Kells. So back to you. So
we're back in Kells with the Italian in tow. And it's like, it's kind of like, he came back. But then, so we settled into a nice little flat and all the rest. We're waiting for the baby to come. And then, I think I was about 7.5 or 8 months pregnant, and he said to me, do you know, I think I do an Italian accent, only I'd butcher it. But he said, I think I'm going to go home for a little break before the baby comes. And sure, you can't fly now because you're past the stage where you can fly, you know, so you can see where this is going. So anyway, off he went, and that was it. And actually, what I wanted to touch on was something that Eamon brought up in his grounding thing, because one of the things I've written down here is listening to your inner voice. And whenever I'm from the school of hard knocks, and that's through no fault of my parents, it's my own, I always do things the hard way. And the only time that things have ever gone really well for me are when I've actually listened to that inner voice and trusted my gut and listened to what it's been saying to me. And anyway, I knew he wouldn't come back, and he didn't. He didn't come back till my son was about 3 months old. But by that stage, and my dad in particular was like, maybe you could make a go of this. And again, listened to my gut and said, no, I'm not having this. And that was that. So,
allow me, sorry, Nicola, if I may, just allow me on behalf of the audience to honour you for being so strong in yourself. That's a big decision to take at such a young age. So congratulations. But I think we're probably seeing the fruits of that now. You're clearly a very strong woman, and you're very clear in your own mind as to who you are, and what it's all about. So congratulations. And
well, I am clear, Colin, but I wasn't really clear until about 5 years ago, and we can touch on that in a while. But I'm 44 now, and I really feel that I only started properly living when I was about 39. But we can go into that later.
Yeah, we'll get there. And another thing, I find that really fascinating. It only picks a specific age, like 39. It wasn't like in my 40s; it was 39. So there's something there we're going to pick at in a minute. All right, so we're back in Kells. Italian man has been given the door. And what's going to happen next in the journey?
Well, I mean, obviously I didn't stay on the shelf for long, so nobody joking. Gareth came along then when my eldest was, when our eldest was about 8 months old. So things started going a bit better then. And we went on to build a life together. And we have 3 further beautiful children together. So we have 4 gorgeous children.
Which is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely, I'm delighted to hear that, right? But so we can't skip past that. That was too quick, right? So You didn't stay on the shelf for long. Love that, right? Gareth noticed you well before you noticed him, apparently, according to yourself. We might bring Gareth in to tell the truth about that story in a few minutes. Okay, but how did you meet?
Actually, the first time I ever met Gareth, when we were both about 12, and he was serving mass, and he was actually too cool for school, so he was splayed out on the steps of the altar like this, and he still drives his car like that, kind of like this, and so that's how we first sort of met each other. And then he actually went out with a friend of mine when we were in secondary school. That was only because I was already taken at the time, Colin, so otherwise, no, what are you joking? But we met through mutual friends, essentially, and Gareth had a job just up the street from where I lived, so I would see him passing by and he would see me passing by, and that's how we met. We kind of mooched around the peripheries of the same circles.
Lovely, and that's certainly one version. Gareth Lawless into the dock.
Wasn't expecting to be included in this.
You're on the Coffee at 11 show. Anything can happen.
Okay.
All right. So how does that story relate? Is there any semblance of truth in what we just heard?
It is actually the truth. Yeah. I did notice Nicola sooner than she noticed me, but that was fine. I think I had to get the hair a bit longer and look a bit grungier for her to be interested. You know what I mean? So we did that, and that worked, and then it just happened. We just kind of came together, and that was it. Jesus, we never looked back since. A bit of a roller coaster now, but definitely very, very, very. Well, I was 19, sure. Do you know what I mean? So, who'd have thought we'd be together at 43 and 44? But yeah, her story is true. You know what I mean?
Wonderful stuff. Gareth, thank you for that. The reason, by the way, I invited Jim was we had a Coffee at 11 show some time back, and with this couple in, and they had 2 very different stories as to how they met. And so I'm always curious. So that's good. It matches so far. Gareth, thanks for that.
Okay.
Now, back to you, Nicola. Right, so you're now with the man of your dreams, right? You got 4 wonderful children. What drug you to the kingdom?
So our second child, Ben, who is actually the most beautiful human being you will ever meet, has profound special needs. And we had been in business together, and then we'd gone on to that business failed, and Gareth was working, and I was kind of a bit of a stay-at-home mom for a while. And then I fell into this job, just literally fell into this job. And the person who gave me the job really helped to steer me. I was supposed to drive a vehicle 2 hours a morning to bring a person with autism to a centre. And that's how I started the job, 10 hours a week. And within about a year and a half or 2 years, I was the training coordinator and development officer. So because she saw something in me, some potential, and I really had to give her the kudos for that. She saw potential in me that I couldn't see in myself, you know. So in that role, I was doing a lot of training, and I was on the road a lot, and things were very hectic. Gareth was working in Smurfit News Press. He was printing newspapers, and he was working a lot of nights and a lot of weekends, and I was working at least 30 hours a week and traveling all over the country training. And we had these 3 gorgeous kids, one of them with profound special needs, and just things. We're living in a nice house, we have nice cars, but things just didn't feel right. And again, because I have to do everything the hard way, I was just getting there. I had trained up, and I was doing different bits and pieces, and I was in a good job. And next thing, we had our 4th child. So our last child, the baby of the house, Shay. And it just started to get a bit too much. Garrett was working 5 out of every 8 weekends. And I was down in Kerry actually doing a lot of training with drivers and passenger assistants around accessible work. And somebody said to me, you know, there's a job coming up down here, and we think you'd really be suitable for it. So I went home and talked to Gareth, and we were like, something's got to give here, you know. So I went for the job, and I got it. And I don't think I realised what a profound impact moving around as a child had on me until I did this, because our eldest was 12 at the time, and he was just going into first year, and he felt the impact of moving 200 miles away. So I don't think I really understood that until then. But we came to Kerry in 2008, and we made our lives here, you know.
Thank you for sharing that. Obviously, in the introduction, I had mentioned that you're an advocate for special needs. So I was wondering where that was coming from. We've just heard about Ben. How old is Ben now? How old is Shay?
Ben is now 24. My eldest will be 26 this summer. Then Ben is 24. We've one daughter, Fia. She's 20. And then our youngest is 14, going on about 44. But yeah, that's the age profile.
We moved from Dublin, or Kildare as it happens. We were living in Celbridge, and we moved to Limerick in 1998, and our eldest was 12. So I can absolutely empathise with your situation there. What's really interesting is I hadn't moved around, so it was a big deal for all of us, but it was a particularly big deal for our 12-year-old. She was 35 last Sunday, so holy moly. But I know exactly what you're talking about there, because at that age, they're quite vulnerable.
Yes.
You know, it's a big deal, big deal when you're making friends at that stage. May I ask about Ben?
So Ben, with Ben, we kind of started to understand that there might be something wrong when Ben was about 9 months old, and that kicked off about 3 or 4 years of just continual testing and psychological evaluations and all kinds of tests and neurological tests and everything. And then eventually they kind of said to us, look, Ben has profound special needs, and it's known as global developmental delay. And that's sort of like saying, you've got a virus. They weren't really sure what caused it, what it was. He had metabolic testing, he had lots of different things, but nothing was conclusive. So we just accepted Ben. I think that's where some of the acceptance comes from. We had to accept Ben for what he was. Originally, it was Originally, it was quite hard to accept, because there was so much worry about his future. And then we realised in a couple of years in that actually Ben was so happy in his own world. And therefore, if Ben is happy, what are we worrying about? So I won't say it wasn't challenging, and it was particularly challenging for our other children because Ben was kind of a constant focus. But he just brought so much into our lives. He's just the gentlest, funniest, giggliest, wonderfulest human being that you could ever meet. He's non-verbal, so he's very like he's his father's son, because he picks up people's names, because then he can get your attention. Like, so he's non-verbal, but he gets these, he knows how to call who he needs, but he's very, very charming, and loves the women, absolutely loves women, so
his father's son, all right.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So he's just a wonderful person, and it was very challenging for him growing up and for us raising him. But we're just extremely proud of the human being that he is now.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful, and thank you for sharing that. But also thank you for telling us how joyful it is, and acknowledging that it clearly was challenging back in the day when you first were made aware of this. Does he live with you at home?
Well, so. This is where my story comes in why I feel that my life started at 39. So we had always, the advocacy bit comes from constantly having to fight, always having to fight for services, and this divide and conquer that you'd meet in the services sometime. Like, I remember really struggling at one point, and the liaison person said to me, well, you're living in a nice house and you have a job and you have a husband. There's other people who have it worse than you. And I remember really feeling ashamed at the time, thinking, God, like, they're right. But that wasn't the point. The point was that we were all struggling, and it didn't matter what our circumstances were. And just having to fight and shout the loudest all the time just didn't seem right to me. It just didn't seem right. So I had to become an advocate. And we always fought for things like case conferences, respite, and respite was just non-existent. It was just a constant struggle and fight. And we came to realise fairly early on as well that if we didn't fight for things, he wouldn't be in the system. And if he wasn't in the system, he wouldn't he wouldn't be entitled to anything. So even just getting him from school into his day placement was a fight. And it was just constant fighting, And I don't think I realised the toll that was taken on me, because I had quite a stressful job as well, and we'd moved and we had 4 kids and all of these things going on around us. And then in February 2016, so I don't know if anybody remembers this, but it was a bit of an epidemic at the time, not a pandemic, but swine flu, H1N1, was going around, and there was 32 of us working in the company at the time, and I think about 20 of us got it, And I remember coming home. I had been at some kind of conference or something, and I came home on a Monday evening. I didn't get home till about 7, and I remember cooking the dinner, and Garrett came in the door behind me, and by the time I had the dinner cooked, I didn't even have the energy to eat it, and I was just lying on the couch, and I was like, I don't feel right, So and my daughter got it as well. So obviously we were both down in the doctor, and I'd gone for a couple of visits. This is a Monday, and I wasn't getting any better. I was on steroids, I was on all these things. So by the Sunday, we had to actually make an emergency call to the doctor, and the doctor came out and he listened to my chest and he said, hospital, I'm calling an ambulance. And I said to Garrett, look, don't call an ambulance, we'll drive in. I didn't want to scare the kids. So in I went into the hospital in Tralee, Kerry University Hospital, and I went in there on a Sunday night, and on the Wednesday morning, they put me on a ventilator, and they called my family and said, you've got to come down and say goodbye to her, this Nicola is not going to survive. So I had become what they call hypoxic, and my organs were shutting down, and my heart wasn't working, and my lungs were definitely not working. And they had to put me on a ventilator to keep me alive long enough that all the family could be gathered to come and say goodbye.
My goodness.
So spoiler alert, I didn't go anywhere.
Well, we can see that, and wonderfully well. And you see, this is the wonderful thing, and thank you for going there. This is the wonderful thing about the Coffee at 11 show, dare I say it, is that we invite people to go back and tell us the real story, because here's the problem, right, as I see it. The problem is we all present as we are today, all of us. We rock into any meeting, online or offline, anywhere, and we look in and we walk in like we've got our shit together, let's be honest, right? All of us, we put on our best foot forward, and we rock up, and that's what people see, and they make a judgment call on that. So nobody meeting Noogle today, right, and seeing you in this strong woman persona that you are, and rightly so, would ever guess that you were at death's door in 2016. So I knew there was something when you said it wasn't in my 40s, in my late 30s, it was 39. I knew something.
Yeah.
What happened? Was that swine flu brought you to death's door?
Yeah. So swine flu was kind of like COVID. What happened was my lungs shut down, my heart started shutting down, all my vital organs started shutting down. I remember them putting me on the ventilator, like, oh, Jesus Christ, like, you think that you can control everything. They had me on the CPAP machine, which is like sticking your head out a window going at 60 miles an hour. And I was just there because I was like, I need to go back to work and I need to get home to the kids and blah, blah, blah. And they were like, whoa, will you just, I remember, like, I had no clue that I was dying. I mean, everything they tried to do, I was like, I don't need that. They were like, no, you do, you know. So they called Gareth at something like 2 a.m. in the morning, and they'd moved me to ICU, and they brought Gareth in, and I couldn't talk at this stage. So I motioned for the phone, and I got the phone off him, and they said, look, Nicola, we're going to have to ventilate you. You won't survive otherwise. And I typed into the phone, 3 days, wake me up after 3 days, and don't leave my side. Right. And he was like, yeah, okay. You know, like, when I think about it, I just thought I was still in control, you know. So I'll never forget them actually ventilating me. They ventilated me really early in the morning, and there was about 14 medical personnel around me, and they were all trying to creep in so as not to scare me. But I remember my knees, I used to think it was a cartoon thing, but my knees were literally knocking together. I thought, oh, feck this now, you know, feck it. So that was it. I woke up 3 weeks later in CUH. I was in the ICU in CUH. I'm told it was, and I have to tell this story because, like, levity is so important. It took them, the day that they put me under, all my family came down and they said goodbye. And Gareth thankfully knew somebody as a doctor in CUH, and he rang him and said, listen, this is the story. And that guy said, look, let me make some calls. And he got a microbiologist, and the microbiologist said, if you can get her to CUH, I will do my best for her, right? But it took them nearly a full day to get me to CUH, because every time they tried to move me onto the portable machines, I'd crash. So it took them all day. Anyway, so this was obviously very stressful and very tense for my family. And eventually they managed to get me on the mobile machines that night, and they started wheeling me down the hall to bring me out, and everybody was kind of standing. I don't know, I wasn't there, but this is the story I'm told. Everyone was kind of standing to one side going, oh, Jesus Christ, hopefully she makes it, you know. And as they're wheeling me down the hall and everyone's hoping I don't crash, the ambulance man's phone goes off and it plays the theme tune to The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. You know that song? Do, 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 you know? And my brother had to run out of the hall, and his wife, because they were like, she would fucking love that, you know? Like, I'm just going down the hall, like, in bits, you know, but, like, they're playing my theme song, you know? So I just thought that was hilarious.
That is absolutely wonderful. That is wonderful. I didn't know what was going to come, but that couldn't have been better.
Oh, I love it.
I have to bring Gareth in. Gareth, come back in for a minute, please. So the first thing, right, is you didn't wake her up after 3 days. Were you killed for that one? Right? She told you wake me up after 3 days, and you left her there for 3 weeks. So.
I was so serious about it. Like, on the day of the thing, she was sending emails from. I had to ring work and get them to disconnect her email in the office, so she could. Just there was no realization of how ill she was. Like, but that's the fighter that Nicola is. Like, she'll drive on till the very end. You know?
Come here. It's obvious there, Gareth, very strong woman. How was it for you?
I suppose it was terrifying. I'm not going to lie. I've been in plenty of situations, and I navigated in rally cars and all this mad stuff, but nothing came close to a consultant walking out. I got the, 3 days, wake me up kind of thing, and I said, all right, okay, yeah, okay, right. And then the consultant coming out, how far away are the family? And I said, they're up in Meath. You want to contact them straight away? Like, only for Nicola's sister walked in the door to me. I don't know, she must have got a feeling or something that something was wrong. I was about to pull the head off the consultant, because I was like, what did you do to her? What did you do to her? So I was only talking to her 2 seconds ago, you know? So then Nicola's father, I rang Nicola's mother and actually couldn't speak to her. The minute I heard her voice, gone. So that probably frightened the life out of her more. You know, so we all got together and the whole family came together, and Nicola's parents and sisters and everyone were just incredible. Some of our friends as well, we brilliant friends. My parents came down and minded our kids. They were just, look, Jesus Christ, if you talk about family support, this is the blueprint for it. Do you know what I mean? Because they were just amazing. But I was terrified. And it was 3 weeks of terror. And then when she woke up, it was terrifying as well, like, for a while.
Okay. Right. We park that one. That's good. That's we come back to that in season 5.
Yeah, so yeah. Right. Yeah, there's a book in this.
Thank you for that. You see, the reason I wanted to, and thank you for coming in, because Nicola, by her own admission, wasn't there. She was under. Right? So there are two perspectives here. So Gareth, thanks for that, and we're so delighted for both of you that you made it through.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
you.
Nicola, we're back to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 3 weeks later, was there murder that he didn't wake you up after 3 days? Was there murder? Were there words?
Well, all I remember, because every time every time the children came in or one of them came in. So I must say, first of all, our friends and family were just fantastic. And I need to give a special mention to my father, because I wouldn't be the fighter I am without him. So when Gareth rang him, he had a little red Fiat Panda at the time. That's a 1 litre vehicle. It was his little runaround. And he drove it so fast the whole way from me that it was lit up like a Christmas tree. Every light went off in the car, you know. I'd say he hit the road in places. And Gareth said he burst into the hospital and he was like, where is she? You know, because he's a dub. And he was like, what did you do to her? You know, like so. And then he was just, everyone was trying to work out what hotel will we stay in and everything. And he was like, I'm not staying in a hotel. I'm staying right here until she wakes up, you know. So I remember when I woke up, I was in CUH, and so every time people came into me, apparently I would get kind of distressed, so they had to really, really put me under. And when they decided, I owe my life actually to a really beautiful nurse in ICU. Her name was Marie, and the consultant kept saying, I don't think we're going to be able to wake this woman up. And she kept saying Gareth had told her about her kids at home, and that you know, how much, of course, like every mother, I love my kids. And she kept turning down the breathing machine to make me work a little bit harder. So eventually, Mother's Day in 2016, they said, look, we're going to start taking her out of sedation tomorrow and see how she does, you know. And they said, now it's going to take a couple of days. It could even take a couple of weeks. And Dad was like, right, listen, forget about that. This one never even slept in the car when she was a kid, right? So you start turning down that sedation, you better be ready, right? So I remember waking up and I had terrible ICU delirium, but I really, really knew I was in Cork. I felt like I'd run an ultra marathon, and I woke up like this. I was like this, yeah, you know, and they were all like, whoa. And Dad and Gareth came in, and I grabbed the two of them and I was like, me boys, you know, and now it wasn't that coherent, let me tell you, you know, and all the tubes were pulled out and the nurses were like, oh, come on, settle down. And I actually even punched one of the nurses. I was like, get away, you know, and I was like, come on, lads, let's go. And they gave me the phone to talk to my kids, you know, and I said to my daughter, Fia, listen, I'll be out here in a couple of days. Do you want to go and do a bit of shopping and we'll get a bit of lunch, you know? And they were all like, oh, Jesus Christ, she's off her head, you know? So we had a fun couple of days. We had a very fun couple of days. I drove the nurses nuts. I was just like, when can I go home? And they were like, you can't even walk. And, you know, we're not, like, nothing would do me until I drank some orange juice. They were kept trying to say, you can't drink orange juice. They kept trying to wet my lips. Your throat doesn't work. You've lost your swallow. I was like, just get me a bottle of orange juice. And I remember drinking the orange juice, and the lad said I was hilarious because I was just really concentrating. I drank the orange juice, and I'm going to curse, right? And I said, I drank the shit out of that orange juice. You know, I was just like that when I woke up. I was just nuts, trying to set my eldest up with one of the nurses. I thought I was at a Coldplay concert. It was just nuts, you know, nuts. But after 3 days of just harassing and haranguing the ICU staff, they're like, move her up to the respiratory ward, please. So they moved me up to the respiratory ward, and they came in and they said, you know, you're going to be here for a couple of months and you need to learn how to walk again, and you know, all of these different things. And I was saying, yeah, no, that's not going to suit me, thanks, you know. But even I remember when I woke up, I was like, how long was I asleep? And Cara was like, 3 weeks. And I was like, get me a newspaper. You know, I didn't believe them, you know. So they moved me to the respiratory ward, and from waking up to going home was 9 days. I was not staying there.
Oh my goodness, my goodness. My goodness, Nicola Lawless. Your dad was right. I laughed when you said this one never slept in the car.
Yeah.
And you've proven that. You've proven that. So from death's door back in 3 weeks and 9 days. Go you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long, hard struggle. I had to take a year off work, but every day I felt if I did something a little bit more, and I knew that my spirit would die a bit if I stayed in hospital as well. But more importantly than all of that, we had a kid at home with special needs that didn't know what was going on. I had 3 really traumatized children. My eldest lived in Cork at the time. I had 2 really traumatized children. I had absolutely, you know, blown apart these people's world, and I just wanted to put it back together for them. And we had no support with Ben other than family. And that kind of was the start of the real advocacy for me, because we went to meet with the HSE and we said, look, we really need a bit of respite. We need a bit of help here. And they said, it's not an emergency. And I said, well, what would be considered an emergency? And very sheepishly, admittedly, but they were like, well, if you died. And I said, are you telling me I'd have to die to get support? And they were like, yeah, that's how bad things are, you know. I thought, no, I'm not having this. So, and kind of it gave me also a sense of, I was very aware that a lot of young people with disabilities, if something happened to their primary carers, they might be put into an old person's nursing home, which is totally unsuitable. And obviously my brush with my health or death was very prevalent in my head. What would happen to this wonderful person if there was some act of God and myself and Gareth were gone in the morning? So that was sort of the start of the real advocacy. I remember getting in touch with the National Advocacy Service and, we can't do anything till we come and meet Ben. And they came and they met Ben. And I said, well, he's non-verbal. And they said, well, we still have to meet him. And they met him. And 9 months later, I got a text going, hi, Nicola, I'm sorry, I was very busy. Do you still need advocacy for Ben? And I was like, no, that was 9 months ago. I'm advocating for myself now. You know, so it was just, and I'm not singling out any one service or any one person in the service, because it's actually the system. The system is wrong, and they're only working in the system. So that was the start of it for me, you know. So this is the longest answer you've ever got to a question column. Does Ben live with us? Not since last September.
I'm glad you reminded me of the question. But it didn't matter. I didn't need to be reminded, because the story is what we wanted to hear, and thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. I suppose I don't quite know where to go with it. I'm in awe because you and I have met in the last number of months, and we're doing some wonderful work together in Wigwam, and it's a great pleasure.
Which is so joyous.
Yeah, it is. It is. But it's joyous because of the people, right? And. But just here's the thing. I'm sitting here jaw dropping with this story, because, you know, meet you in the street or meet you on Zoom as we've done, and we wouldn't know this. We wouldn't know the hurdles you've had to overcome to become the person we see sitting here today. So huge props to you. I wrote down Marie's name, Marie in ICU. There's a woman that deserves. There's a woman who's caught in the same system you referred to, but is working on her own terms, right, and is making decisions for the right reason, for the what she believes to be the best for the person that she sees in front of her. I think the problem with the system that we're talking about is they look at statistics and numbers, and you know, and come here, it's difficult too, so we won't go there, right? How's things today for you all? You're involved in a handful of businesses and of course the advocacy work. So what's a typical day like? You and I were on a Zoom the other morning at 6:45, and you happened to just throw into the mix that you'd be finishing at 9:30 that night. Tell us about that day.
Well, my son said it. My eldest said to me the other day, "Mom, you're a little bit like a shark. If you stop moving, you're going to die." You know. I was like, but I just am passionately curious, and if I don't know how to do something, I learn. And that has, and as I said, I came up the hard way. So much to my poor mother's annoyance and dismay, I didn't finish college. So, like, I mean, I can't ever just do something without going like extra. And when I was pregnant with my youngest child, I was doing 2 college courses in Maynooth at the time, 2, like, because I didn't have enough to do. And I've just continued to do that. I'm continuously, I said to somebody the other day, I'm a jack of no trade. Like, I'm actually overqualified for any job I would go for because I have so many different things that I'm interested in or did things in, master certificates in this. The new thing is finance. Because I was just, every time you get a really good person, a good accountant in business, somebody poaches them. And I've been really good at spotting good ones, so they never last longer than 2 or 3 years and they get poached. So last year I thought, oh, feck this. So now I'm doing finance. So, and the next thing on the list is law. And then I was thinking about being a pilot. So,
Come here, sure, isn't Farron 4 just out the road there?
I was thinking. That's what I was thinking, yeah. But that's kind of that's a bit what I'm like. And I do feel sorry for Gareth. There's this, when we were getting married, so my parents were in Finglas, obviously, when I was born. And when we were getting married, Gareth was from Kells in County Meath, but his parents lived in Finglas for 2 years. So Gareth was born in Finglas. So when we went to get our baptism certs, Gareth said, "Try just run down to the parish office." But when we were actually at the church, we had been baptised in the same church in Finglas. And there's exactly 9 months between us, with me being the older. So there was this big joke going around the family that I was born, and they were like, "Jesus, we better send someone down to look after her," you know. So then he came along 9 months later. So a typical day could comprise of anything and everything, Colm. I just like to do things, and I like to create things. But most important to me would be my kids and my family and my friends. So I'm trying to work towards a life that works for me instead of me working for it, you know, so that I have that time for friends and family.
Yeah, lovely, lovely, lovely. When you said I feel sorry for Gareth, I was tempted to say we all do, but we don't. We don't know at all. Gareth, very blessed. Genuinely very blessed to have somebody like you in his life, dare I say it, and he's given us the thumbs up there for sure.
And I him.
But we heard that you know you can't bring somebody like Gareth into this conversation as we did earlier, and Gareth, thank you for doing that because it was completely unexpected. But we heard the passion coming out in his voice. You are his life, and he is your life, and the kids, the family is your life. So. Look, it's been a joyous conversation with you, and as I say, we can Noogle the business. That's my new term now. We can Noogle the business, and we will. So we don't even need to go there if you don't mind, because I want to get to the Princess Shelley part of the show. Apparently, many people's favourite part of the show. I reserve judgment and comment till afterwards, but we're going to go there in a minute. But before we do, I've got 2 quick questions, if you don't mind, Nicola, please.
Yes.
First question is, Nicola Lawless, what did you find in COVID that you're not letting go? What are you taking with you from COVID?
I think that, again, going back to Eamon's opening, everything we have, we need. Everything we have, we need. I spent COVID actually downsizing because I was actually embarrassed by the abundance of things I had that I just didn't need. You know, I did not need them. Everything, it made us stop and pause, and it allowed that power to emerge and just to step into yourself and step into your power. And we don't need all those trappings. And like some of my dearest friends, I've never actually met in person now, because that pause allowed me to be true to myself and be able to make those connections on a much deeper level. So that's the first thing. And the second thing I'm taking from COVID is that my hairdresser is now more important to me than some of my family. So just some of my family, but no, I'm only joking. But yeah, like just that connection is so important, and that was what that kind of life-threatening illness taught me. And I never actually felt like I belonged until that happened, because I could feel this warmth and this surge of love and positivity for me. And that's something that I spent the last 5 years trying to build on, you know. So COVID was great, because sometimes we get caught in the rat race and the hamster wheel, and it actually made me stop again. And I thought, Jesus Christ, like, if you didn't listen 5 years ago, listen now, you know.
Fantastic. Yes, indeed, DQ with the Bula bus. And the second question, before we go to Princess Shelley, is you meet a friend, you come across somebody older than you, and you realise by listening to them that they are in fact struggling. They're at the end of their tether in terms of everything that's gone on over the last 15, 16 months. What's your advice to them?
I don't think I would have any real advice for them, because I would feel like I wouldn't diminish their experience. I would just try to be there for them. And if there were things that I could do that they were struggling with, because we all struggle from time to time. There's small tasks that seem insurmountable to all of us. I know I get that from time to time, and being overwhelmed. So I try and help in where best I can. I'm more an action person. So I would try and help in any little way that I could. And I would listen, because at the end of the day, like, I'm not getting it all right, and I'm certainly not getting it right all the time. So I would just try and be there more so than anything else, you know. I think that's really important, because I would not be where I am now without people who have been there for me.
Wonderful stuff. And the Bula bus started there with Princess Shelley, which is a beautiful segue. Nicola Lawless, thank you for being here, and stay where you are. We're going to go over and hear what's been on in the cafe.
Much, Callum.
Princess Shelley.
Hey, Nicola. Wow, some story, you know. I met you in inverted commas first about 2 months ago, and I just thought I was meeting this amazing businesswoman, and this is why the Coffee at 11 show is the stunning thing it's become, because I've been speaking to this woman. I had no idea the story behind, and I was shedding tears when you said, I'm actually going to go if I'm not careful. And you said your dad drove this Panda down and it was all lit up, and he came in, he was like, where is she and what have you done to her? Oh my God, the tears, it was like snot bubbles and everything while I was listening to you. It was just, you blew me away. You were absolutely amazing, but I need to keep on and try and pull myself together to share some of these wonderful comments with you, but you're just amazing. And you know what, testament to the guest we have. One of the first comments was from our guest, Nicola Lawless, you know, not hectic enough, ready to share, but welcoming Janie Lazar into the cafe, one of your favourite humans, I understand. So that was one of our first ones. It was lovely to have you here, Janie. I think she's popped off. And then it was just people saying hello and delighted to have everybody here. First of all, we had Jer was asking, great to have you here, Jer White. I understand we're looking forward to a conversation with you soon. Jer was asking for the link to the Facebook group for the Coffee at 11 show and the YouTube playlist to listen to the back catalogue that's there of all these wonderful conversations of people worth meeting. And then the team that brings the Coffee at 11 show was messaging her back and telling her where she can find out everything. So I hope you can find all those now. There's great conversations, and look forward to this one will be going out on Sunday week. So we had that. So that was lovely. Then Katrina, who is the editor-in-chief, she's the boss lady behind the scenes. She loved your nickname, Nicola. She said, I love the nickname. She gets called Google at work, and she's been telling them she's to change it to Google. And then Dee Keogh said, it's so true. Noogle is a legend. So, and I understand Dee has a question for you, which I'm going to come to in just a few minutes. Dee, so stand by, I'll bring you in there. Then you were explaining about the move, Nicola, when you were born to 2 dubs, you said at the top of the show. And David Brown, it's lovely to have you here, David, in the cafe today. You can give Nicola a wave there. David Brown says he's a dub in exile in Meath as well. And then Eamon was saying that his family hails from Meath, and he's delighted to be able to share his time these days between Meath and Kerry, his 2 spiritual power fields. So that was all. They were all resonating with that, Nicola, you know, that move that you'd made. And then Jer said, oh oh my God, Nicola. And we were all gasping when you were talking about this Italian and bringing him back to Ireland and then him going back, and the intuition that you had, you know, we really began to kind of get sucked into the vortex of your story when you were started there now about the intuition and listening to your inner voice. Ger White said that was a rough one, the Italian going home. And DKO said, amen to that. Why do we not know that? And that was when you said about, it was the first time you really listened to the, you know, your dad was saying you could make a go of this now, and you were like, do you know what? No is the answer, and I'm not gonna settle for this. So DKO said, why do we not listen to that more? And Sarah Ward said, wow, you're so strong. So that was lovely. And Janie then commented and said, it's taken me years longer. Life runs in stages more than ages, because you said you only really started living at 39, and that's before we got to understand why and what had happened, you know. So then we got to meet the lovely Gareth, or Grizzly, we've referred to him a few times. And DKO said, it sounds like the universe had you both marked out to meet. And you know, we've done some laughing in the show over the episodes, Nicola. But when you took him off there, the driving and the Ultra Boy, well, we were all in the knots laughing. It was just, and that's when some of the comments came in there. It sounds like that the universe had you both marked out to meet. So yeah, that was lovely too. I'm wiping away tears here, Nicola. You're unbelievable. So then you mentioned about the job, that somebody had said to you in Kerry that there's a job that would suit you. And you said, and James Finnegan, it's lovely to have you here, James, again, coming from the Kingdom of Kerry. James said that he quoted what you had said, Nicola, about she saw the potential in me that I couldn't see in myself. And as he said, it's been a recurring theme in the Coffee at 11 that, somebody saw something in you couldn't see. And, don't we all have had or are looking for the person who's got more faith in us. So, and Katrina said exactly what I thought, James. And Dee said, that's the magic of mentoring, when someone sees in you the things that you wouldn't believe on your own. So everybody kind of chipping in with something there. So then Ger was laughing at, Ger White was laughing at your youngest, who was saying that she was 14 going on 44. She got a bit of a kick from that. And you had said about you had kind of not underestimated, if you like, the impact of that move on the kids. And Dee said she did similar, moving from Dublin to Kerry when her son was just 13, and didn't realise the impact that it would have on that. So, and then we moved on then. I mean, I'm skipping for you and I'm so sorry. But then we moved on then, Nicola, and we were talking about, that's when the story really went quite serious and you got sick, and you were saying how you were cooking the dinner. And I got a pain in my tummy listening to how you hadn't the strength to eat it. And I was like, oh my goodness, where this is going. James said, never underestimate the determination of a loving parent, because, you were really clearly quite ill there. And Eamon said, very well said, James. And Dee said, true for you, James. Parents travel the depths to find supports for their kids. So yeah, really, really amazing stuff. And then we got to the good, the bad and the ugly. And again, you had the cafe just rolling around the floor with the good, the bad and the ugly. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. Nicola. So I'm going to scroll down a tiny bit more. Then it was the unsung hero of the ICU, this Maria lady. And again, you had me a bit there, Nicola, when you said that she was turning down the machine to help you. Like, that is just, we were all there, and I could feel, I was out in a sweat, and I could see us all on the edge.
I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about her, yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable. So Ger was saying amazing resilience, and DKO was like, look out world, here she comes. And you said the two guys there, how's me boys, you said, and I imagined Gareth under one arm and Pop a Smurf on the other, and it's like, and I was like, oh, here we go now. Donal said spectacular crash and burn, that you really started living at 39. You've always such lovely comments, Donal. It's so lovely to have you in the cafe. He quoted you and you said, get me a newspaper, can't have been asleep for 3 weeks. Such great descriptions coming from you, Nicola. The personal revelations on this show are jaw-dropping, a testament to the trust and support and sense of community that's engendered here. So thank you for that comment, Donal. Really a pleasure to share it, and pleasure to have you here. And then we went back to Colm, Nicola, and he was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know where to go. So Tim then said what many of us thought, Colm speechless. We've never seen that before. So just unbelievable. I'll come to you now, Dee, in a second. Alison Wishy said, Nicola, you're brilliant. I totally can identify with your advocacy journey. You're a force of nature, and the world is a better place with you in it. Isn't that a lovely comment? Nicola, isn't it?
That's wonderful. And, you know, I'm so glad, like there was times and that's one message I would give to people who are in similar situations to ours. Like when we go to, we can't see Ben much at the moment with lockdown, so we Skype, and then every week I just have to drop something over, you know, so I can kind of see him, but he can't come home and we can't visit. But when we go over, he's so delighted to see us. He's just so delighted to see us. But after 5 minutes, he's pushing you towards the car because he's like, I am happy here. That is his life. And he is in just such a wonderful, the company that provides the space for him is called Resilience. So he shares a house with 3 other people, and that's his gang. They're his housemates. That's his life. And I mean, like, he has a better life than, like, he has a foot spa. He Skypes me with his feet in a foot spa, you know, and he gets massages and he goes for lunch, and I'm like, you little, like, there's no line on his hand, you know, but he is just so happy, and they're just doing such a wonderful job with him. And I know if something terrible happened to me and Gareth tomorrow morning, he's set. You know, he has a life now, and a very fulfilled life. So that's what I would like to say to people who might be in a similar situation. Like, there is hope, you know. And
so proud of him and the happy. I mean, isn't that all any of us want for our children? You know what I mean? And you've like Dee said, she's leaving out how she lobbied ministers and the media and the radio and the dial getting this proper care and support for Ben. So I suppose that's it, because maybe time, you know, but we have no idea, you know. Dee is just standing to you to say the great work that the depth that you went to get that for him, Nicola, you know. Celia said that Munster Technology University is offering pilot courses, because you were talking.
I know. Yeah, I know. I sent it to the Wigwam group last week. Finance and business and pilot, right up my street.
Love it. Alison reckons you and Gareth are a wonderful couple, as so many of us do, you know. And I saw Gareth sat back when Colm invited, and I love the way Colm does this, you know. He invites in somebody who's related to them, you know, to get their take on it. And at one stage there, Nicola, Gareth sat back and he was asking Gareth to recount the terror, you know, while you were out of it. And I've become attuned to watching people's faces now since Zoom, you know, and Gareth's mouth changed. And I thought, when he recounted the terror of, and I thought to myself, wow, he's going to go, because the emotion, I could see it, Gareth, I could see it was etched across his face, because for a moment he went back to that moment where he was going to lose the best thing in his life. So thank you, and sorry, but thank you for going there and sharing that with us. But yeah, and Dee says anyone who has Nicola in their life is truly blessed. So Eamon's popped up the links there, Nicola, for Dean Travel and for Nicola Lawless and LinkedIn and Dan Travel and all that. So all the links are there, so do go to them. Alison agrees with you about the hairdresser, Alison, that about Tom Dillon says, Nicola, you are an absolute hero. The love between you and Gareth is inspiring, and your love that you share for your children. I'm just in awe listening to you. What a powerful and inspiring story. And thank you, Tom, for that comment. Really, really good. Really good. Eamon says 100%. It changes us, and we've so much already to be grateful for, because you said how, you know, Eamon loved that you said that in lockdown you decided, you know what, I have too much, I need less. Yitka has loved your sense of humour today, and Tim Kelly says the chat has been a real tonic. So yeah, and everyone, Sabina says you're so inspiring. So just before I hand back to Colm, I'm going to invite Dee in. You have a question for Nicola, Dee. So do bring a question there, and if you've anything you'd like to say to Nicola following the chat today, you're great friends, I understand, Dee.
I didn't know I had a question for Nicola, but that's good. Sure, we're always on the fly here. But I do also want to say, if it's okay, that as much as Ben is super, Nicola's son and Garrett's son, there's 3 wonderful super advocates as well, like Luca and Fia and Shay.
Yeah.
They're like ministers for hello, how are you, and welcome. And I just a very quick story. I was in a really bad bind a couple of years ago, and I got caught up a mountain I won't go into the story. My car got locked out. I had no key. I had no nothing. And I ended up on their door because I knew if I got to Castle Island, I'm talking about I was caught in a place called Gwenaguilla or something. I can't even pronounce it. It's up in the mountains. And I got back down and I knocked on the door and Shay brought me in. That's her son. And he wasn't even 14 then. You want to see the welcome. It's like and that's the way you get brought. There's no key on the door. You just walk in. They just say, come in. And I got walked in. I got, slippers that you get from a hotel, like posh slippers was put on me because I was drowned. And I got new clothes. Fia then looked after me. Luca was there making me coffee. I remember I didn't even eat ham. I didn't even tell them. I got toasted ham and cheese sandwiches just lashed on me on the table. To this day, I will never forget it. And that's the kind of heart hospitality that they hold, and it's in every one of them. So I just wanted to, just to say, like, they all have it. They all have it. It's in them. It's in the DNA. Listen, love you, and it's just been a privilege to watch. So the only question I was going to ask you, Nicola, was what you want to be when you grow up.
I want to go to Mars.
I
want to go to Mars. I want to go to Mars. I keep thinking, just stay alive long enough until, and then by the time, I want to go to Mars.
There you go. There's an answer and a half we weren't expecting. Thank you very much. I'm sorry if I threw you under the train.
Did I look like I was under the train, lads? I'm in my element.
And thank you, Dee, because when I was talking about Ben the last time, I thought, oh my God, I haven't mentioned 3 others. But I'm always walking this fine line between, like, don't be talking about us and then trying to tell people how proud I am of them. They're beautiful humans.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Dee. Thank you.
Oh, wow. That was gorgeous.
Wiping the tears away.
Listen, I'm in absolute awe listening to you, right? You were an absolute hero. And I mean that now. It's not too often because I'm actually fighting back the tears myself listening to the two of you talk there all morning. Like, it's been absolutely an honor and inspiration listening to the two of you, because I kind of knew, I think I met you, just in the background. You were at the Pouring Out Community Conference that Dee organised back maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I remember, and your son Luca was in Castle Island. The first day I stumbled into Dee's workshop about unlocking your potential. I was at a conference at that time, and I remember looking at Luke that day, and he was looking at me, and for some strange reason, the two of us kind of said, I know him, and he said the same about me, and we couldn't figure it out. It was a very unusual thing to happen, but it's an absolute honor listening to the two of you talk, like, and I could definitely feel the strength of love between the two of you, like, it was actually like, it does bring tears to my eye, like, so you're a power couple, that's for sure, and you're an inspiration. So if you were one of our TD, we should have you as our TD for Kerry, I'm telling you. You'd kick ass, so you would.
I'd laughed about 2 weeks before I'd upset someone,
2 minutes, Nicola, not 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, I was just being nice to myself there, Dee.
Well, sport number 1, Nicola, anyway, that's what I say.
God. Thank you very much, Tom. It's lovely to see you here this morning as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Nicola. And thank you, everybody, for all your comments. It's so pleasurable and honourable to be able to share them with the cafe. Without you putting them in, I wouldn't get to share them. So it's back over to you, Colin. Thank you very much.
Oh, Shelley, thank you. It's this running joke. It's a bit like Colin, your host for today. It's a bit like, and then Shelley comes out with everybody's favourite part of the show, but it actually is. And I can go with the flow and pretend it's not, but in fact, it's also my favourite part of the show, because when you and I were having the conversation, Nicola, I knew this rich conversation was going on in the background, because it really is like a regular cafe, and it's sort of people nudging each other. Did you hear what she said there? Did you hear what she said there? Right? There's all this type of stuff going on. So it really is, and beautiful comments, folks. Thank you, one and all, for being here and for participating and making the Coffee 11 show the special place that it has become. Donald, thank you for that lovely comment that you said earlier. We've been doing this is, I think, 107 or 108. 108, I think. And but it's wonderful. So we just have this joyful opportunity every Friday to come in, and it doesn't matter what we all went through this morning, and it sort of doesn't matter what we all go through this afternoon. We're all richer for having taken an hour and a bit out of our lives. And Nicola, every time I sit in this chair and have the pleasure of talking to somebody, I've no idea where it might go, because, as I said to you, we all present right? And you rock up like you're got your shit together, and you know, and you have, right? But you present like that. And part of the problem, as I said earlier, is if people don't show their vulnerability, well, then other people feel, well, I could never be as good as her, right? Whereas now you've said, well, I was actually at death's door, and I, you know, and I've got all this other stuff that I've got to contend with in my life. And in a funny sort of way, that's a challenge, and not in a loving way to other people, which is basically, so what's your excuse? You know, and it's never said. It doesn't need to be, but that's why people need to hear other people's story. So I'm looking forward to the book. Noogle, it's probably in the title.
I'll probably be sued for copyright.
Yeah, Noogle the pilot to Mars. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, come here. Listen, I saw, I can't remember who put the comment in about you can get flying lessons here, and Gareth is going, no. All right, come here. Look, it's been really a pleasure having you here in the cafe today at the Coffee Level Show. And Gareth, thank you for going with the flow. And we did throw you under the bus, and you responded beautifully. Folks, I want to say that this couldn't happen without the audience. Thank you for being here and coming back every week. It's just such a joy. But the team, my goodness, in fairness, you saw them all, right? And it's, of course, it's Princess Shelley, big heart emoji there, for producing today's show. Eamon Smith, #KerryGuru, for keeping us safe and sound and giving us something to consider. Tim Kelly for, where are you, Tim? There you go. Tim Kelly for always been first here every Friday and keeping us safe and sound and on track. And of course, Katrina O'Brien for topping and tailing this and making it beautiful. And she's got this lovely way of editing now, and not that she didn't have, but you know, it's evolving into #cat style, and it's just wonderful. And it goes out to an audience approaching 18 million now every week. So that's really exciting. And you see, we're not in charge of who this is going to reach. We're in charge of stepping up and saying we can do this. Let's have a chat. And then we just put it out there. And the people who need to hear this somewhere, anywhere, anytime, this could be 20 years from now, somebody's going to stumble across this, and it'll make a difference. So thank you one and all, but in particular, and the last word goes to our special guest in particular, Nicola Lawless.
I just would like to say thank you very much for having me on. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of my friends and family, future friends and present friends, and future family and present family, because they're the reason why I'm here, and they're the reason why I live the way I do. So thank you one and all.